एक अमेरिकी नेशनल सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल की चेन ऑफ कमांड आज इस तरह काम करती है। ब्रजेंस्की ओबामा की सदारती मुहिम के दौरान उनके खारजा अमूर के मुशीर और हेनरी किसिंजर ये किरदार मद्दे मुकाबिल जॉन मैकेन के लिए अदा कर रहे थे, और बहुत कम ऐसा हुआ कि उन्होंने एक साथ किसी महफिल, किसी नशिस्त में पाकिस्तान के बारे में आपसे पहले खुल के गुफ्तगू की हो। आपकी भरपूर तवज्जो की दरख्वास्त करता हुआ दोनों शख्सियात का ये ताज़ा तरीन मुकालमा आपकी खिदमत में।
So let me go. Does this present economic crisis, being of its global nature, offer possibilities for a different kind of solution to specifics and a kind of reorganizing of the global relationships?
I think the combination of the economic crisis, which underlines the centrality, for better or for worse, of America and the world, since no one can recover without us, whereas we can recover without some of the major players in the world. With the election of Obama, who is articulate and intelligent, does give the United States a greater chance of exercising a constructive role on the world scene. But at the same time, I just have to note, and with regret, the fact that we are also handicapped in two very serious ways. One is we haven't yet resolved the economic and financial dilemmas that we confront, and we still have a great deal of uncertainty regarding the future of our banking system, and it's not clear that we have a handle on it yet. And that could produce some very serious disruptions domestically, not to mention the danger of polarizing and dividing the country again. And secondly, we do run the risk of getting bogged down in Afghanistan and Pakistan. That risk is enormous. It's in fact expanding. Oh. And if we get bogged down in a major conflict within Pakistan, and Pakistan disintegrates in the process, we could be facing some extraordinarily unpalatable choices. Either to disengage and to leave Pakistan and Afghanistan to the mercy of the extremists and even the terrorists, or to escalate our involvement with or without international support, physical support. I think that could be very painful. So while I agree, generally speaking, with Henry that we do have an opportunity, it is an opportunity in the context also of maximized dangers and how we conduct ourselves, how effectively the President leads, how much support he gets from the country and then from our friends, can very well be decisive to the outcome. Before
the President went to Europe, there was the overall review took place with Ambassador Holbrooke and General Petraeus and others. What came out of that, in your judgment, that right or wrong?
In Afghanistan?
Yeah, what they call the Afghanistan-Pakistan Strategy Review.
Well, my understanding of it is that they adopted a more fluid military strategy.
Exactly.
One that was more designed to achieve strategic denial of Afghanistan than to occupy every square kilometer. Secondly, that they would establish that they would attempt to involve the neighbors of Afghanistan in a process in which they have a shared interest, because strangely enough, Iran and we have a parallel interest to prevent Afghanistan from becoming a base of guerrilla activity. Russia and we have a parallel interest.
Iran and we have a parallel interest.
That's what right. Iran and we have a parallel interest. So it is a combination of a more fluid military strategy and a perhaps more encompassing diplomatic strategy than was the case before. And I fundamentally agree with the outcome of that review.
Okay, while we got you on this subject, while we're in that region, let me expand that. Do you worry what Israel might do with a new government and a new foreign minister, continuing with the defense minister, on a Netanyahu, Lieberman?
You know, occasionally Israelis come with that question.
Do you think it's a...
No, my answer always is, tell me what you're going to do the day after and how you're going to handle the situation that will inevitably develop if you do that. And if you can't answer the second question,
don't do the first.
Don't think of the first.
And so where do you think their mindset is now with a new government?
I think at the end of the day they will not do it.
Zubik?
I hope they don't do it, because I think it would be destructive, damaging to us, not particularly good for them, terrible for the region, because it will strengthen the extremists in Iran and encourage them to take it out on us in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in the Persian Gulf. We would be the victims. I don't see the beneficiaries, but I certainly see us as a major victim. So I certainly hope they don't do it, and I hope that we make it clear to them that we don't want them to do it.
But we
I can understand I can understand their anxiety, I can understand their concern, but I don't think that we should be in any way misleading them and thinking that this would not be a matter of very grave concern to us and very damaging to us. Beyond that, I think if I can come back for a second to Afghanistan and Pakistan, because that was a question which you also raised, Charlie.
Right.
While I agree with what Henry said, I would add just one further point to it. I think the strategy, the review for Afghanistan is pointing in the right direction. A mixture of political and military, including even the possibility of some reconciliation with the less extremist aspects of Taliban, and the creation not of a democratic Afghanistan on a modern nation-state basis, but a more mixed, more traditional arrangement that has been typical of Afghanistan. Where the review, I think, is very vague and unclear is in regards to Pakistan. We want Pakistan to be totally helpful to us. We are critical of some parts of the Pakistani government, particularly its intelligence service, which we suspect was helping the Taliban. But the question which it doesn't answer, that review, is how do we really get Pakistan to help us when the Pakistanis are convinced that they have a threat from India, and when they're also convinced, rightly or wrongly, that they want Afghanistan to be their geostrategic zone of depth vis-à-vis India. How far are we prepared to accommodate some of that? And that gets us into even a bigger conundrum, namely, to what extent do we support the democratization of Pakistan in the midst of what is increasingly becoming a domestic, not only disorder, but potentially civil war with extremists? I think these issues the review did not really address nor answer, at least not openly.
And do we have power to affect them is the question.
That is a very good question, too, because my sense of the problem is that the very scale of the potential disorder or even collapse in Pakistan is such that it would be almost impossible for us to handle it, no matter how determined we would be to do it.
On the Pakistan issue, there's a longer term and a shorter term problem. In the short term, relating to Afghanistan, I read a lot about we have to help solve the India-Pakistan dispute, and I think it is important to establish some priorities of what we can do in a manageable period of time. And the India-Pakistan issues will have to be negotiated primarily between the two sides with whatever goodwill we can generate, but not in a American mediating role. If Pakistan were to disintegrate and become a failed state, which would be a disaster.
Which is a real possibility.
But
is it not?
Then we will be impelled to consult China, India, Russia, all affected countries will have to try to find some way to deal with this. I do not know what that way will be.
Okay, but
moment.
Should we do that now? Should there be some serious consideration between, maybe this is happening at the G20. Should there be some serious consideration now because of the fragile nature,
well, it's very
what we
difficult.
see every day in Islamabad?
I would hope that some discussions are going on quietly. It's not a subject you can put